After some early missteps, Elizabeth Warren's campaign for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination appears to be gaining traction. The Massachusetts senator has been closing in on Bernie Sanders for second in the polls. The latest Real Clear Politics poll average shows her less than 1 point behind. Former Vice President Joe Biden is still about 13 points ahead of both of them. A new piece in the New Republic details Warren's steady rise. The author's staff writer Walter Shapiro joins us now from Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. He's also a fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice. Walter, thanks for joining us. Senator Warren faced backlash earlier this year when she took a DNA test to prove her Native American heritage that the president had been disparaging for so long. Do you think that's been a stumbling block, and how has she overcome that?
Well, I mean, everyone has blots on their record. The thing with Elizabeth Warren is the whole Donald Trump Pocahontas reference. It goes under the heading of not fake news, but elderly news. He has been talking about this for so long that I think it's lost some of its power. But I think a lot of the problems were that people, say in April, May, the kind of people who appeared on shows like this were talking about Elizabeth Warren as someone who lost her opportunity. Bernie Sanders was crowding her on the left. There were new faces like Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, and she was just seen as someone who is there but had made a number of strategic errors, like refusing to do high donor fundraising. That was then. This is now.
Yeah, and there's been talk about the fact that she and Bernie Sanders kind of split the same voter bloc, so we still have to see about that. But she's also an outspoken critic of Wall Street. She has pledged not to raise money at big fundraisers with the wealthy. That move prompted her finance director to resign because it made his job a lot tougher. But in the second quarter, she raised the third highest amount of money behind Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden. So how do you think she was able to accomplish this, and where are those donations coming from?
Well, they're mostly coming from small and medium-sized donors. The fact is that her 2012 Senate campaign that really launched her against Scott Brown in Massachusetts, a Republican incumbent, she said she raised the most money of any Democrat running that year. And again, she had a great online fundraising list. And the point was that she had confidence in that. And it's a lot easier if you really believe that you're not going to cater to the kind of people in Park Avenue penthouses and Greenwich Estates for fundraisers if you have that kind of donor list. And that was one of her big edges going in.
And it might be helpful, too, if you come across as the real deal. You write in your article that by the flexible standards of politics, Warren is about as authentic as you are likely to get. So can you explain more about that, and just how is it that her style is so appealing to voters?
Well, first of all, it's really important to understand that having seen her do events in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, that so much of her life story really appeals to women voters, because it was not an upward arc of checking off one successful box after another from a hardscrabble life. There was an inconvenient marriage at 19 that led her to drop out of college. There was babies just at the wrong time for her career. And I've just seen in audience after audience, women nodding along with this story because it is an amalgam of theirs. And that is why I think it's a real mistake to see this race as ideological. I find many more people at Elizabeth Warren events were Hillary voters in 2016 in the primaries, not Bernie Sanders voters.
Anybody who becomes president, though, has to work with Congress to get anything done, to be a success. You can be an ideologue, you can have great ideals, but you also have to be able to get something done. Do you think that her supporters, do you think they realize that, or is it that her message just appeals to them so much that they'll deal with that when the time comes?
Well, I think there's some of it that they'll deal with that when the time comes. But you also have to remember that Elizabeth Warren has been in the Senate longer than, say, Kamala Harris. She has Washington experience, unlike Pete Buttigieg. And as a consequence, there is a sense of pragmatism to her that is not being emphasized in the Democratic primary, but is there. And I mean, I'm seeing much less in Congress as an inflexible ideologue than a certain independent senator from Vermont I could name.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And also, I have to say, her rallies have a really unique energy that stems from her campaign. Talk about that a little bit. What are they doing that stands out to voters so much?
Well, first of all, is the fact that she is 70 years old. She's one of the three 70-year septuagenarians in the Democratic race. But if you ask voters, and this is just totally impressionistic, is she closer in age to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, who's 54? I would say the overwhelming number of voters would say she's closer in age to Kamala Harris.
Interesting.
In truth, she's 16 years older than Harris and just 6 years younger than Biden. But everything about her energy, her performance, the way the way she comes across on stage implies someone younger.
Yeah, really great point. And well, they're all great points. Walter, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you
It's
again
always
soon.
a pleasure.
Thank you.